When it comes to popularity, garden roses are near the top of the list with flower gardeners in the United States. There is no denying that the garden roses are beautiful, but as they are non-native to North America and were selected for large, showy, multi-petal layered blooms, they are seriously lacking when it comes to providing for our native pollinators and wildlife. This is where our native rose species excel. Their simpler, but still quite beautiful blooms are much better suited for use by our native pollinators. Not only do our native roses help pollinators, they also support a wide variety of wildlife. But we will get into that more in a bit. Right now, let's dive into the native roses, starting off with the prairie rose, Rosa arkansana, which has a range that covers most of the Midwest and the upper Mississippi Valley states, the areas we tend to associate with having prairies in the past. This is a smaller species of native rose and can be from 6 inches to 4 feet tall with an equal spread, although it is most often seen growing around 1 to 2 feet tall with an equal spread. It is a thicket-forming shrub and will spread from root suckers if allowed to. Prairie rose has 1.5 to 2 inch blooms that can vary from white to shades of pink and can even be bicolored. The blooms occur from May through August, depending on location. As the flowers fade, they are replaced by 1/2 inch diameter, round hips that will ripen to red from August to October. Prairie rose can grow in part shade to full sun, but will produce more flowers and hips in full sun. It prefers dry to somewhat moist, sandy, or rocky soils. Like many prairie species, prairie rose is resilient when it comes to disturbance and can handle grazing, drought, and fire quite well. The smooth rose, Rosa blanda, is another native rose species that is found mostly in the northern half of eastern North America. Smooth rose has large, 2 to 3 inch blooms in shades of pink that can be seen from May through August, depending on location. The hips it produces are on the bigger side, from 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch in diameter, and they ripen in August and September. This thicket-forming shrub spreads quickly from root suckers. Individual sprouts will grow from 2 to 6 feet in height with an equal spread. Like many of the native roses, it can grow in partial shade to full sun, but will produce many more blooms and hips in full sun. Smooth rose is often found growing in dry to slightly moist, rocky soils. Like the prairie rose, smooth rose tends to thrive on disturbance and is often abundant in frequently disturbed areas. Smooth rose gets its common name due to its thornless new growth. If you love learning about awesome native roses, be sure to pollinate that like button. Speaking of pollinators, the wild native roses provide for a wide variety of them. The colorful, sweet-scented flowers do not produce nectar, but the ample pollen they produce is gathered by many species of native bees, especially bumblebees, and even a longhorn bee that is a rose pollen specialist. Honeybees also gather pollen from the wild roses, and it is also eaten by a colorful assortment of beetles. Rose foliage is fed upon by many species of insects, including sawfly larvae, and up to 102 species of caterpillars that will use rose as a host plant, including the impressive caterpillars of the equally impressive Cecropia moth. Of course, all those caterpillars are an important food source for songbirds, especially during the nesting season. Wild roses also feed songbirds and game birds through the fall and winter with an ample supply of highly nutritious rose hips. The hips are quite persistent and will remain on the rose shrubs through the winter, at least until they are all eaten. Not only do the hips feed birds, but they are also sought out by small mammals, such as squirrels, and even larger critters like deer. Rose hips are also edible to humans and are often used to make a soothing tea. The wild roses provide more than just food though. They provide dense, thorny cover for feeding, resting, and nesting songbirds, a place to take cover from predators for small mammals and reptiles, and provide nest-making material for leafcutter bees and nesting sites for native bees that create nesting chambers in hollow twigs. The native wild roses are so much more than just pretty flowers. Now we come to the most widespread native rose in eastern North America, the Carolina rose, Rosa carolina, which can be found over nearly the entire eastern half of North America. This rose is known for its abundant 2-inch wide blooms that are most often in shades of pink, but can sometimes be white, that bloom from May until August, depending on location. It produces a crop of large, red, round, and somewhat flattened hips that ripen from August to October. The size of the Carolina rose can be quite variable depending on growing conditions, and it is usually from 6 inches to 6 feet tall with a 1 to 5 foot spread. Much of this variance is due to Carolina rose being amongst the more shade-tolerant rose species. It can grow in quite heavy shade, but does its best in part shade to full sun. As far as soils go, it does best in average to dry, loam soils, but it is adaptable to a wide range of soil moisture and textures. Carolina rose, like many wild roses, will form a thicket by suckering, but can be controlled and trained by pruning, making it one of the best wild roses for using as a hedge. Another wild rose with a large native range is the impressive swamp rose, Rosa palustris, which is also found in nearly all of eastern North America. Swamp rose has an impressive upright form and tends to form a thicket much more slowly than the other species in this video. Under most conditions, swamp rose will grow to be 3 to 6 feet tall with about an equal spread. As the common name, and also the scientific name, if you know your Latin, suggests, this is a rose of wet to moist, acidic soils with a high level of organic matter. It can't grow in standing water, but does handle occasional flooding well. The blooms of swamp rose are around 2 inches in diameter and in varying shades of pink. The flowers have a distinctive orange to red center, which sets swamp rose apart from the other native wild roses. Blooming generally occurs from May to August, depending on location. The abundant red, round, half-inch diameter hips ripen from September to October. It grows best in partial shade to full sun. Due to the soils preferred by swamp rose, it is often used as an indicator species for high-quality wetlands. I would like to take a second to thank everybody who has supported the channel by subscribing. I really do appreciate it, and it does let me know that the content I am creating is reaching the audience it is meant for. I would also like to give a super huge thank you to all those who support the channel financially through our Patreon, PayPal Donate, and YouTube Super Thanks. The channel would not be possible without you, and we here at Backyard Ecology are truly thankful for you. If you would like to join them in their support of Backyard Ecology, our Patreon and PayPal Donate are linked in the description, and you can give through YouTube Super Thanks by clicking the heart with the $ icon right below this video. Thanks again for the support. Now for something a bit different, a wild rose that climbs. The climbing prairie rose, Rosa setigera, has a trailing growth habit that allows it to climb up any structure it encounters, such as shrubs, trees, brush piles, or a trellis. It is also thicket forming and has the capability of quickly overwhelming a small area. For this reason, climbing prairie rose is not the best choice for a small space. This fast-paced growth does have a use in erosion control and for wildlife habitat projects on larger properties. The size of climbing prairie rose can vary depending on whether it has something to climb on or not. If there is no structure for it to climb upon, it will get from 3 to 4 feet tall with a 6 to 10 foot spread. If it can climb, sizes of 3 to 15 feet tall with a 6 to 10 foot spread are possible. This is a fairly widespread native rose, and it is found in most of eastern North America except the extreme northeast, the northern Atlantic seaboard, and Minnesota. Climbing prairie rose is quite colorful when in bloom, as the 1 to 3 inch diameter flowers can be shades of pink to even white, often on the same bush. Blooms appear from May through August, depending on location. The half-inch, round, red hips ripen from August to October. Climbing prairie rose does its best in full sun and grows in a wide variety of moist, well-drained soils. Another wild rose named after a state is the Virginian rose, Rosa virginiana. This is the most range-restricted rose in this video, being found mainly in the northeast and the eastern mountains, and being rare elsewhere in its range. This is a later blooming native rose, and its 1 to 3 inch wide flowers in shades of pink usually bloom from June until August, depending on location. The distinctive 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch red, round, and somewhat flattened hips ripen from August through October. Virginian rose has a pleasing upright form, and like most wild roses will form a thicket if allowed to. Under most conditions, it will grow to be 4 to 6 feet tall with a similar spread. It does best in partial shade to full sun and in sandy to loam soils that are well drained. Virginian rose is tolerant of salt, so it is a great choice for areas that receive salt spray from the ocean or where there is salty runoff from winter road de-icing. The native roses are awesome shrubs for pollinators and wildlife, and one you may be lucky enough to have growing on your property. But watch out! There is an invasive species of rose, the Multiflora rose, that is widespread in eastern North America. To learn how to tell our beneficial native roses from this invasive menace, check out this video, and be sure to get out and explore nature in your backyard.